What's going on, my Central Unit? It's your friendly neighbourhood Central Man here, back again with another WCW pay-per-view review. Actually, this is a JCP pay-per-view review. Actually, it's not really a pay-per-view about to review. This is a closed-circuit televised event review. That's right, I'm going to review the first Starcade from 1983. So this show was at the Greensboro Coliseum Complex in Greensboro, North Carolina on the 24th of November, 1983. The attendance of the show was 15,447. Like I said, this is not a pay-per-view. This is a closed-circuit event. The commentators for Starcade 83 are Bob Caudle and Gordon Solie. This is Jim Crockett Promotions' first ever closed-circuit event. Or technically, this is professional wrestling's first ever closed-circuit event. The announcers on the show call this a new aura, a new era, the biggest wrestling event to occur. This show pre-state the first WrestleMania by 2 years. WrestleMania 1 will be WWF's first ever closed-circuit event for that company. Starcade is the alternative to WrestleMania. It's the predecessor to WrestleMania. Without Starcade, it might not be a WrestleMania. Starcade is once a Thanksgiving show, and then soon to become a Christmas show. Starcade will become Jim Crockett Promotions and soon to be WCW's flagship event. They'll continue to do Starcade until the end of the company's existence, the last one in the year 2000, until WWE bring back Starcade as a house show in 2017, 2018, and 2019. And they've never done another Starcade show ever since. They could bring it back in the future, but it's unlikely. Starcade 83, 1 month ago, marks the 40th anniversary of the show. The tagline for Starcade 83 is "A Flair for the Gold." It's really hinting that Starcade 83 will be Ric Flair's night, I'm glad they don't make it obvious, they changed the word Flair, instead of Flair like Ric Flair, with his last name spelled like F-L-A-I-R, it's just F-L-A-R-E, because the main event of Starcade 83 is Harley Race versus Ric Flair inside of a steel cage for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. I'll get to the main event later on in this review. When I watched this on the network, they went to the action. It's not like, "Hi everyone, I'm Bob Caudle, and this is Gordon Solie." No, it's moved to the first match, And speaking of the first match, the first ever Starcade match is a tag team match. So we got the Assassins, Assassin number 1 and number 2, with Paul Jones in their corner, taking on Rufus R. Jones and Bugsy McGraw. Some of these wrestlers on the show, some I know, others not so much. I've done my research on some of these wrestlers, They wrestled in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the start of the 1980s. Some I know, some not so much. Anyway, so the Assassins is a group of tag teams wearing masks. They've been doing this tag team since the 1960s. You had many people really doing this assassin gimmick. Portraying those group of people wearing the mask, Randy Collier, Hercules Hernandez, Ray Farnborough. The first two assassins for this tag team are Jody Hamilton and Tom Renesto. I don't know who Tom Renesto is. Jody Hamilton is the father of referee Nick Patrick, who will soon be the referee in WCW and WWE. In this match, Assassin number 2 is not played by Tom Renesto, it's played by the future Hercules Hernandez. Rufus R. Jones, at the time, done my research on this guy, he's entering this match as the current Mid-Atlantic champion. Bugsy McGraw, not familiar who he is. In this match, he was kind of acting goofy. With Rufus R. Jones, he's got a little bit of swagger in his moves and his repertoire. The match was okay. I'm not saying it in a bad way. It wasn't terrible, but it's not uninteresting. It's not exciting, but it's kind of there. It's kind of getting the fans looking forward to the rest of the show. The fans really booed the Assassins, really got behind McGraw and Jones. In the end, the Assassins got the victory. rolled up Buxton McGrath. I think it was 102. I think it was Hamilton or the future Hookers Hernandez. Pin Buxton McGrath for the win. It's just what it is. The fans booed. You know, it wasn't terrible. It was kind of boring, but like I said, it's not terrible. It's just kind of there. Anyway, moving on to the next match. So the next match is another tag team match. Kevin Sullivan and Mark Lewin teaming up with Gary Hart in the corner, taking on Scott McGee and Johnny Weaver. I know who Kevin Sullivan is. Kevin Sullivan is the future booker of WCW. This is years before he ended up be part of the Varsity Club and becoming the Taskmaster in the Monday Night War era of the company, feuding with Hulk Hogan. At the time of doing research, he's doing this gimmick like, is he not a Satanist? I don't want to get into it, I prefer not to speak. If I speak, I'm in big trouble. Anyway, this match is okay, Like the opener, I think this was a bit serious, but with the opener, it's a bit goofy because you got these goofy characters. Anyway, so the match was okay. In the end, you had one more of the match. You had Sullivan and Lewin grabbing Johnny Weaver's arm, doing a double wrist lock, and then the walking around, while holding Weaver's arm. It's hard to really call it. I'll call it Ring Around a Posies type of spot. It's interesting. In the end, Gary Hart and Kevin Sullivan grabbing Weaver's both arms, and then Lewin did a move off the top rope. It was a diving knee onto Weaver's arm, probably injured in the process, pick up the victory. Afterwards, this is the first of many beatdowns for the show, heels doing the beatdowns. Gary Hart pulling out a foreign object, I don't think it's a knife. I don't want to get into it, but he pulled out a foreign object. I think it was McGee. I think it was Weaver or McGee. I think it was McGee, because Weaver, I think he was selling selling his arm. I think it was McGee kind of decks Gary Hart, while he's preparing to stab someone with the foreign object. But and Lewin managed to grab the foreign object, and stabbing Scott McGee in the head with it. McGee was gushing blood, and then Angelo Musca. It's hard to pronounce his name, by the way. He trying to do a run-in, trying to come to the rescue, but he got stabbed in the arm with the same foreign object, And then minutes later, or later on in the show, Angelo Musca, he's got a bandage around his arm. And the funny part, Scott McGee was not dead. He was basically semi-conscious, The blood is rushed throughout his whole face and head, right in his chest area. And Angelo Musca, his promo and his acting was so over the top. He's comparing and reminds Scott McGee, reminds him his 21-year-old son. It was a bit oh my god, over the top, man. It was Scott McGee, man. Are they gonna check up on him? Wiping the blood off his face, put a bandage around his head. Anyway, it was an okay match. Wasn't terrible, but it's kind of there, it's the beat down for the heels is just get more heat. Anyway, the next match we got Abdullah the Butcher taking on Carlos Colon. I know who Abdullah the Butcher is. I know who Carlos Colon is. Carlos Colon is the promoter of a wrestling company in Puerto Rico, called World Wrestling Council, the father of Carlito, Primo, not really Epico. Epico is the nephew of Carlos Colon. Anyway, so this is a rivalry took place in Puerto Rico. I think it was 7 years back, or maybe in the 80s or 7 years back. But last time they fought one-on-one in Puerto Rico, it was banned in Puerto Rico because it caused a riot, The match was thrown out. So it's basically a continuation of what they did in Puerto Rico. And this was probably a disappointing rematch, to be honest, Not a bad match. It was just kind of mediocre. It's the weakest match of the show. I wish they had more, this should be a bloodbath, man. Like, Abdullah Butcher kind of used the foreign object onto Carlos Colon, and then minutes later, Colon managed to use the same foreign object onto Abdullah the Butcher. With Colon, he didn't got bled, but with Abdullah Butcher, he bled. He bled buckets, man. But in the end, Colon, first off, there was a referee bump, and then, Colon locked in the figure four leg lock onto Abdullah the Butcher. Then some random guy wearing a powder blue tuxedo hit Colon with a shoe or some kind of foreign object. Abdullah the Butcher pins Carlos Colon for the win, and that guy wearing the powder blue tuxedo is Hugo Savanovic, the future commentator for WWE, part of the Spanish announce team in WWE decades later. It was okay. Actually, it was. I'm not saying it was a bad match, but I wish they be a bloodbath, people bleeding. Yeah, good to see Abdullah Butcher bleeding. Good, this is the night of bleeding. Wrestlers doing blade jobs, but I wish they had more. It's basically sizzle but no steak. It's just like I wish they had more. I wish they'd just make it into a brawl, a fight. It's just punch, 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 and blade job. It was 4 minutes, but I wish they be a fight. No holds barred, but it's just what it is, man. The next match, another tag team match, Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Slater taking on Mark Youngberg and Wahoo McDaniel. I don't know. I know who Bob Orton Jr. is. The father of Randy Orton, the son of Bob Orton Sr. Mark Youngblood is the brother of Chris and Jay Youngblood and the son of Ricky Romero. Wahoo McDaniel is a wrestler in the 60s, 70s, former United States champion, and also do more research that Wahoo McDaniel put Ric Flair's career on the map. This was when Ric Flair was a mid-card guy, years before he became a main event player and a multiple-time world champion. Anyway, I'll talk about briefly about the main event. I'll talk about the about Slater and Orton and the bounty. I'll talk about it again when I get to the main event. Anyway, with Slater and Orton, they kind of attack Ric Flair, receive a $25,000 bounty with at the time the NWA World Champion Harley Race, to take out Ric Flair to end his career. So yeah, Slater and Orton captured the bounty. Like I said, I'll get to more of that when I get to the main event. So, the Youngblood and Wahoo McDaniels is basically fighting the honor of Ric Flair. What Orton and Slater did. Anyway, I think this was a really good match. Better than, Assassins versus McGraw and Jones and Sullivan, Lewin versus McGee and Weaver. This was good. I really like this match. Every time Wahoo McDaniels or Mark Youngblood, trying to do a comeback or a hot tag, the heels always cut them off. I kind of like that, It was a bit boring, it's what it is, man. It's 1980s, man. It's the era of rest holds. This is a decade before they ended doing the flips and dives and the glitz and the glamour. It's what it is, man. But anyway, I'll try to keep it short and simple, folks. In the end, the ending was a bit botchy. It was a botch. One more of the match. I forgot to mention about Bob Orton. Bob Orton at the time was 33 years of age. It's funny in hindsight. When Randy reached that age, he became a multiple-time world champion. It's funny wrestling how interesting wrestling can be. Anyway, so in the end, Bob Orton Jr. hit a suplex onto Mark Youngblood off the top rope and pin him. And when the referee, before he did the free, here's the funny thing, Wahoo really brought the hole. The referee did the 3 count anyway. I think Wahoo was a bit too late, or did the referee fucked up? It's kind of vice versa, man. It's just what it is, when Orton hit a suplex off the top rope onto Youngblood, Wahoo trying to break up the pinfall. But it's just kind of whatever, man. It's just it's a bit of a fucked up, man. So in the end, another post-match beatdown. This is the second one, by the way. They beat down Wahoo McDaniel. They injured the arm of Wahoo McDaniel. One of them did like a diving knee off the top rope onto the ring apron. And it injured the arm of Wahoo McDaniel. It's just basically get some heat. Anyway, but yeah, it was a really good match. I'll get to the next match a bit better. You can say it's the second best tag team match of the night. Let's moving up. It's funny, minutes later on the show, Wahoo McDaniel's got his arm bandaged up. I gotta tell you, Scott McGee, is dead. He's bled to death. No one's giving him medical treatment. After he got stabbed with the foreign object by, with Mark Lewin and Kevin Sullivan. It's just what it is. Anyway, let's move on to the next match. So the next match, this is the first ever championship match at a Starcade. This is the first of 3 championship matches on the show. This is for the NWA Television Championship. This is Tile versus Mass. So we got the Great Kabuki. Try to get my word out. The Great Kabuki with Gary Hart in his corner, defending the belt against Charlie Brown from out of town. Charlie Brown from out of town is Jimmy Valiant. I think he's one half of his with the Valiant brothers with his brother Johnny. I think he is. Yeah, I'm lying. They are brothers, But anyway, so why they did this match, Tile versus Mask? They cut a few months ago. This is a loser leaves tile match, Great Kabuki won that match, and Jimmy Valiant left the company. He came back shortly with the Charlie Brown from out of town. It was just wearing a mask. It was a black mask, Kabuki speculating that is Jimmy Valiant, and Valiant is saying, no, I'm Charlie Brown from out of town, This is an angle they'll do in several years, They did with the Knight Rider, Charlie Brown from out of town, the Yellow Dog, Mr. America, Grado did that gimmick, I remember Grado did that gimmick, Odar, that was a fucking stupid gimmick, but, yeah, it's the first of many times, a wrestler doing that character, wearing a mask, and John Cena, Greg, I forgot to mention, John Cena did that gimmick as well. It's just it's a goofy gimmick, everyone knows that it's the same wrestler, you can tell the wrestler was playing on to it, playing on with the joke, the character, his arms, you can tell, you can see Jimmy Valiant's his blonde hair and his beard, yeah. This is a Tile versus Mask match, if Charlie Brown wins this match, he become the new NWA Television Champion. But if the Great Kabuki win this match, he'll keep the championship and remove the mask from Charlie Brown from out of town. If he reveals to be Jimmy Valiant, I done my research on that, Jimmy Valiant will be banned for the NWA for 1 whole year. This match was fun. I kind of like it. It starts. I don't really. It was boring, but it starts out with wrestle. It's basically a match of wrestle holds or submission holds. The first half of the match. Charlie Brown, Jimmy Valiant. I'm gonna call him Charlie Brown for this review anyway. So Charlie Brown lock in the Great Kabuki with a sleeper hold. Then the second half of this match, the Great Kabuki lock in the claw onto Charlie Brown from out of town. And Charlie Brown was selling the claw every time he's trying to do a comeback, trying to get up, his head's hurting, he's holding his head, he's dazed, that's kind of good, It was a fun match, In the end, it's a bit rushed, Kabuki was trying to do a knee or a leg drop or a drop kick into the corner. Charlie Brown got out of the way, hit just a diving elbow, not a diving elbow, just a regular elbow drop onto the mat to win this match and become the new television champion. Bit weird why they did that, It's just what it is. I think there's more to this, It was only 10 minutes, man. I feel like this finish was out of nowhere. So I done my research on Great Kabuki. Great Kabuki wrestled until 2018. He wrestled in the 60s. He started his career in 1964. He wrestled in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the noughties, and his last decade in wrestling was the 2010s. So basically 5 decades. He's still alive at the age of 75. As for Charlie Brown from out of town, Jimmy Valley ended up dropping the gimmick and also faking the NWA Television Championship. They did like a tournament to crown a new champion that was won by Mark Youngblood. I think it was Mark Youngblood. I think it's one of the Youngblood brothers. Let me check. And by the way, the television title it's NWA and then soon to be WCW's Television Championship. It's the same title, by the way. It's not like Mid Atlantic Man, by the way. It was Mark Youngblood. I was right. So after Charlie Brown, dropped the gimmick, and not just dropped dropped the title, he dropped the gimmick. Mark Youngblood won the title after Jimmy Vine not just fake it the title, but dropped the Charlie Brown from out of town gimmick. By the way, just looking up who's the next champion after Jimmy Vine won the belt. And besides that, this was a fun match to watch. Goofy, yes, but it was a good match. It was a fun match to watch. Moving on to the dog collar match. Greg Valentine taking on Roddy Piper. Not Roddy Piper. I think that that was just Dirty Ev's creation. He's still Roddy Piper. But he's not wearing the Hot Rod t-shirt and the kilt. That would be when he was in Dirty Ev. But anyway, this is a blood feud span a few months back. Roddy Piper was the United States champion. He dropped the belt to Greg Valentine, and in that same match, Valentine injured the ear of Roddy Piper, or Roddy Piper. Injured the ear of Piper. Hitting Piper's ear with the ring bell. That caused Piper to lose percentage of his hearing. So this is a continuation of this personal rivalry. By the way, Valentine, entered this match as the United States champion. Unfortunately, the title is not on the line, but this is not just this is more than just the title. It's just revenge and pride, something like that. Anyway, this match is fucking good, man. I really like this match. This is a bloodbath. Should be Butcher and Cologne in match number 3. This is like the polar up. This is about opposite to this. This is a bloodbath between Valentine and Piper. Using the dog collar as a weapon. I'm glad you win by pinfall submissions. I don't like chain matches and strap matches. You have to touch all 4 corners of the ring. It gets boring, and it's like Jesus Christ. It's just I don't want to get into it. But this match was a bloodbath, man. Valentine was bleeding. I think Piper was biting Valentine's forehead, and also using the dog collar as a weapon. I think Valentine punched Piper in the ear, trying to re-injure the ear of Roddy Piper. What he did to Piper months back, it was really good. It's funny, going back, like 30 plus years later, in that it was in Dynamite. This was during the COVID pandemic era of Dynamite. Greg Valentine was attending a Dynamite. This was another dog collar match. It was Brody Lee and Cody Rhodes, and the shot was Greg Valentine. He wrestled in one of the legendary dog collar matches. People talk about this match to this day. Anyway, this was really good. It was personal. In the end, Piper, he wrapped the dog collar in the legs of Greg Valentine and pinned him to win this match. It's just a normal match. They don't really need the title at this moment in time. And afterwards, Greg Valentine got his heat back. Beating down Roddy Piper and choke him with the dog collar. Sadly, Piper didn't win back the title because in 1984, Piper ended up leaving the company, got picked up by Vince McMahon, going to the WWF, and the rest itself is history. He come back a decade later, or 12 years later, At this moment in time, he'll become WCW. He came back at Halloween Havoc of 1996 to set up a program with Hulk Hogan for that year's Starcade. So anyway, so for Greg Valentine, he ended up dropping the belt 1 month later to Dick Slater. That was on Christmas Day. You know, even though you can tell it's pre-tape, by the way. I don't know. It wasn't pre-tape. Probably a house show. But anyway, so yeah, Piper never won back the belt. You know, I think like Valentine won the battle. I think Piper just won the war. So moving on to the next match. This is the second of 3 championship matches on this night. And this is for the NWA World Tag Team Championships. The Briscoes, not Mark and Jay. This is Jack and Jerry Briscoe defending the belts against Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Jay Youngblood is the brother of Mark and Chris, and also the son of Ricky Romero. I call him Ricky Steamboat, but not Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. That will be soon when he was in WWF. The referee for this match is Angelo Mosca. Mosca, you know, was a former American football player. He kind of played in the Canadian football leagues, but he had a gig in professional wrestling. You know, he wrestled in the 1960s and 70s. He wrestled in Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling. I done more in the research of it. So, you know, yeah, like I said, I do research. You know, if you want to review a wrestling show from whether it's in the 2010s, the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, do your research, folks. Anyway, so this rivalry expands for months now. The whole bulk of 1983, Steamboat and Youngblood trade back and forth the tag team belts between the Briscoes and Steamboat and Youngblood. So anyway, this match was good. I really liked this match. You know, both like tag teams really got different styles. You know, like they got the high flyers. Even though Steamboat, you know, he's a technical wrestler himself, but he does do some fast paced stuff. You got the fast paced guys versus the technical wrestling guys. I think they kind of have some good chemistry. You know, I kind of like this match. You know, I think one more of the match, you know, one of the Briscoes got involved, got in the face of Angelo Mosca, and Mosca kind of pushed. I think it was Jerry. Yeah, it was Jerry. You know, Jerry Briscoe is the future stooge of Vince McMahon. 15 years later, it's the first time I cover a Briscoe match, not Briscoes in Mark and Jay. You know, who become a multiple-time ROH Tag Team Champion. But I'm talking about the original Briscoes from, was it the 60s, 70s, 80s? But anyway, so this match was good, but the ending was a bit, it's just so-and-so. Wish they had more. In the end, you know, you had Steamboat grabbing Youngblood, pressing Youngblood, and drop him. He did kind of like, it was a great press and a splash combo onto, I think it was Jerry or Jack to win this match and win the NWA Tag Team Championships. I don't know how many times, I don't want to get into it, but anyway, and afterwards, another beat down, you know, the Briscoes beating down, you know, throw out Steamboat and Youngblood, and then they beating down Angelo Mosca. Then the babyfaces got their heat back, beating down the Briscoes, and that was it. Anyway, they didn't really hold the tag team belts that long, because they end up dropping the belts, you know, because basically Steamboat dropped the belts and did this whole fake retirement thing. I don't know if that was real or storyline thing. Probably a storyline thing. You know, he ended up retired for real in 1994, but I don't know. I thought that was, you know, that was the tag team belts were won by Don Canuto and Bob Orton Jr. I done my research, folks. Anyway, let's move on to the main event. The main event, people want to see. It's the headline match of this show, Flair for the Gold. This is a steel cage match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Harley Race defending the belt against Ric Flair. So this tagline, a Flair for the Gold, is a massive campaign to make Ric Flair as the credible World Heavyweight Champion, because he's other two title reigns really wasn't so hot. You know, in 1981, Ric Flair won his first World Championship. That was against Dusty Rhodes, but unfortunately, because at the time in 1981, Flair and Rhodes were not really household names. They ended up becoming household names years later, but back then they were not really household names. So the storyline going into this, they're trying to build Ric Flair as the credible world champion. So in June of 1983, Reigns defeat Ric Flair for the belt and become a 7-time world champion. They did this build to make Ric Flair chasing after the belt. So during the build up to this, Harley Race did like a bounty, put a bounty on Ric Flair's head. It was a $25,000 bounty. It's the same angle in wrestling they're doing several years. 20 years later, WWE did the same angle. This time with Triple H putting the bounty on Goldberg, building up to Triple H's match with Goldberg at Survivor Series of 2003. And then 10 years later, Dixie Carter did the same thing, putting a bounty on AJ Styles' head, building up to AJ Styles' match against Bully Ray at Bound for Glory in 2013. I think AEW did the same thing as well with MJF putting a bounty on Bryan Danielson's head, building up to their match at, I think it was Revolution of this year, I think. I might be sure. I might be sure. I'm not sure of this, don't quote me. But anyway, so the two guys to collect the bounty are Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Slater. They did like a spike power driver onto Ric Flair, and Harley Race did the neck breaking thing. He didn't actually break Ric Flair's neck. As a result, Ric Flair went into an early retirement, but he came back, chasing Slater and Orton with the bat, take off his neck brace and challenge Harley Race to the match for the World Heavyweight Championship at that year's Starcade. So anyway, Ric Flair is the only wrestler on the show with an entrance. These typical theme music. You got the disco ball and disco lights. You got the smoking pyro, and you see Ric Flair wearing the blue, a light blue robe, and you see his bleach blonde hair. With Harley Race, he didn't have any theme music. He just came out, people booing because this is in North Carolina. This is Ric Flair country. By the way, the special guest referee for the main event between Race and Flair was former NWA World Champion Gene Kiniski. I also forgot to, before we get to the main event, man. I done more research on this. This is, and also Cultaholic did a video of Starcade 83. Go and check it out. And also Vince McMahon trying to sign Harley Race. Offering him Vince offered Harley Race a $250,000 contract to make Race leave the NWA, leave Jim Crockett Promotions to go and sign in and join him in the WWF. But it was an attempt of sabotage. But Harley Race refused. He ended up going to the WWF years later. I forgot to mention this. But I done my research. This is the Vince trying to sabotage Starcade. This is someone Vince Jr. Got the keys of the realm. This is years after his dad. This is years. I think this is years after his dad. It was his granddad. Then he wants his then Vince Senior. Now Vince Jr. Right now it's Triple H, man. Anyway, the match between Race versus Flair, I forgot to mention this, Flair's title reigns in 82 were not recognized by the NWA. I don't want to get into it, but anyway, this match was good. I think this is particularly the match of the night. I like the Piper Flair match, but I think Flair Race was the match of the night, man. The only nitpick about this is Jim Kiniski. Every time Race or Flair throwing each other into this cage war, and everyone Flair trying to do some grounding him, rubbing Flair's face onto the cage wall. Kiniski kind of pulling Flair off, Race off each other, man. It's a bit annoying. It's just really, a steel cage match is an ODQ match. I don't understand why. Anyway. It starts out boring, but kind of pick up some pace. In the end, Ric Flair did like a move off the top rope. You know, it was kind of like he was going for the cross body onto Harley Race. Before that, you know, like minutes in the early portion of the match, you know, you lock in the figure four onto Race, but Race kind of countered it, you know. Anyway, Flair managed to hit like a crossbody off the top rope. It's funny. It was a crossbody, but it kind of transformed into a head scissor onto Harley Race. He pins Harley Race to win this match. By the way, Ric Flair entered this match as a former two-time NWA World Champion. Beats Race and become a three-time World Champion. Afterwards, you know, and also it was blood in this match. I think Race was bleeding and Flair was bleeding, you know. And afterwards, you know, the locker room celebrate with Flair, you know, lifting Flair on their shoulders, and then you got Rick's wife came to the ring. They both kissed, you know. I think it was Ric Flair got married about 3 or 4 times. One, you know, like I don't know who she is, you know. I think it's Leslie or Elizabeth, you know. One of them is like the mother of David Flair and Charlotte, you know, Ashley and Reed. Not Reed, but like David and Ashley. Ashley's Charlotte, by the way. I'm not really too sure on it. And also, I've done my research on it. You know, Conrad is the son-in-law of Ric Flair. You know, I never knew. I don't want to get into it. You know, he does the podcasts with Bischoff and Flair and Jarrett. You know, but anyway, so yeah, it's good to see Flair winning the belt. You know. And in the this post-match interview, Harley Race says, you know, this is your night. He wants a rematch, and he does get a rematch. You know, months later, March of 1984, you know, they had a rematch. You know, Race win back the title from Flair, becoming 8-time world champion. And then 3 days later, Flair regained the world title back from Race in Singapore. Unfortunately, that doesn't count because it was not recognized. It's funny. I think him being Race really credifies Rick as the man. You know, like I said, like when Ric Flair's first 2 world title reigns were not so hot. You know, the NWA board of directors never seen Ric Flair as going to be the man. You know, he's a main event player. You know, they'll shoot him down because of his height. You know, he's too short. You know, but I think they changed their mind. And I think it was the right choice. You know, it's really like Ric Flair began a massive stranglehold of the World Heavyweight title belt, you know, throughout the 80s, the 90s, and his last one in the year 2000. So, it's just, yeah, I think, you know, seeing Ric Flair ending the show was really good. My overall rating of Starcade 1983, the first ever Starcade, Flair for the Gold, is an 8 out of 10. Like I said at the beginning of this video, without a Starcade, there will never be a WrestleMania. This show predate WrestleMania 1 by 2 years. This is way better than WrestleMania 1. This show showcased a lot of future legends of the business, future Hall of Famers. The only thing in the bad has to be the Abdullah the Butcher versus Carlos Colon match. It wasn't really like it was a terrible match, but it was a bit underwhelming. The weakest match of the show. The only thing in the okay has to be the first 2 matches of Starcade 1983. But I really enjoy the dog collar match, the NWA Tag Team title match, Orton Slater versus Youngblood Wahoo McDaniel, Charlie Brown from Out of Town versus the Great Kabuki, and the main event, you know. 3 title changes. They make a stamp and deliver of the first wrestling event broadcast on closed circuit television, man. This has got to be in the top 5 best Starcade shows of all time.